Alright people, one more time, this is Tropical People and Places, and today we come in and talk about tolerance. Having too much of a high tolerance for foolishness. We as people, we're not supposed to be flustered. We ain't supposed to be getting angry and frustrated at the slightest things people do. We're supposed to have patience. We're supposed to exercise patience. We're supposed to exercise long suffering, as the Bible tells us. But sometimes we allow things to go too far. We allow things to get too far in this country sometimes, to the extent that people will take you for granted. The community will take you for granted. The government will take you for granted if it is that your tolerance is such that you just have no limit as to your tolerance. And people generally will not respect you if you are tolerating anything from them. You will not be respected by people if you are tolerating everything that they do to you. For the most part, what people want, they just want a situation where some people, where they can do and say anything that they want to you, and that is the only way they will accept that you are a good person. When you can tolerate all foolishness, when you can tolerate all level of disrespect from them. I will just give you a few examples. You will go to, sometimes you go to the government buildings. There have been times in the past I have gone to one of the government buildings to get to get something done. And there have been times where you're waiting for a long time and it looked like there's no urgency in serving you. And these things were more prevalent in the past. And somebody will just come and start fussing, cussing. Somebody will just come and say, "What the mother? Tell si mama so person back a serve me." And then when that happens, you will see people running from the behind the counters. You will see supervisors running up front and ask, "Sir, how can I help you, sir, sir, sir?"
What's up, message?
But all along, you've been waiting for hours or close to an hour, and there is no urgency on the part of anyone. But when you start cursing, as in the case I know a guy did one time, and when you start fussing and making noise, all of a sudden people come and calling you sir or madam or miss. How can they help you? But all along when you were displaying tolerance, nobody was taking you seriously. What I'm trying to say simply is that there is a certain threshold of tolerance that when you allow people to go beyond that threshold, when you take the tolerance, when you tolerate foolishness for too long, when you allow too much foolishness to be tolerated by you, you make yourself into a joke, you make yourself into a mockery, and the people will themselves not even take you seriously. Let's look at the level of the community. This is the same thing. At the level of the government, it is the same thing. You will have a situation where these governments that we have in St. Lucia, especially when it comes to victimization of people. People will victimize you, make sure you do not get a job, call the people in your community to make sure that you do not get work. Ministers will call certain people and just tell them do not give that person anything. And these things are tolerated. They are tolerated. And this is why we have the kind of rotten environment that we have now. Because these things pollution is being tolerated to a high degree in this country. Some of the things that people do here, especially politicians do to people here in this country, that will not be accepted in no other Caribbean country, or there are Caribbean countries, if you do that, there'll be repercussions. There's a man was telling me that
Yes, sir.
the guy used to be, he's into construction. So certain times he would go by the communications and works, and he would try to get the engineers to give him certain works to build culverts and things like that. And there's a certain guy who was a minister of government. When he found out that the guy was getting work, he would block the guy from getting work in any ministry. And he actually met the man on the road and tell the man, tell the man, Moki met Bodao. Upakahen pièce job a pays ça. So these are the things that people tolerate. And so in various communities in these places, when a certain party is in power, the supporters of the party that is in power will ensure that the persecution and the prosecution of people on the other side is done. They will make sure that certain people do not eat, do not drink when the party is in power. That is being tolerated by the supporters, and that is being tolerated by the person who's actually being victimized. So we're supposed to have a low level of tolerance for people, for allowing people in your community to be victimized by politicians or other people. Now this thing is not only at these higher levels, these things happen even at the very level of the household. In the house that the person is coming from, sometimes this is the first place that they get victimized, and they get accustomed to victimization because they are being victimized even at their very house. Certain times in the family, there are certain people that they use as scapegoats. Everything that is wrong. Imagine you may have 3 children in a house. 2 of them, whatever they do, it is okay. But there is one of them, whatever he or she does, they always on them. Even when they do not do something, all the blame always come on that child. So that child is like a scapegoat, and that child is blamed for even things that they do not do. And people grow up sometimes in these households just being a victim, being a scapegoat. But you have to, even at the level of the household, you have to reach a point where you will stand up against that and say, not me no more, that ain't happening. You're supposed to just have a zero tolerance to being abused and to being victimized. And so what we have in the country is that we have a situation where people accept being victimized sometimes, they accept being abused because it is being tolerated. These things are being tolerated, and there are people within the family, within the community, within the country who believe that other people should accept being victimized. They believe that other people should accept being abused. You as a St. Lucian, you should not accept being victimized. You should never accept being abused by nobody. And so as a country, you should have a low level of tolerance for victimization, a low level of tolerance for being abused. You should not accept victimization from nobody. You should not accept being abused from nobody. And you should stand up on your feet. And if it is that people will stand up and say no, they will not accept people victimizing them, they will not accept that, this society will be different. But when you have a pattern of tolerating disrespect, tolerating abuse, this is what we get. Because right now, some people feel it is okay once their party is in power to disrespect other people, to abuse other people, to make sure that other people lose their jobs. You should have a low level of tolerance for that. And even if you are a member of a party, you should have a low level of tolerance to see your people in your party abusing other people. You should not accept that. Because some of the things that have been accepted in St. Lucia, you try that in other countries and it will be bloodshed. You cannot accept. You should not accept victimization. You should not accept abuse from nobody. And in this country, these things have been accepted. There is too much of a tolerance for disrespect, abuse in this country. Too much of a tolerance for people to be victimized by politicians and nobody say anything about it. Once it is not them, they do not care. Too much of a tolerance for even in a household sometimes to accept people just disrespecting you, and just because you do not want friction in the family, you just accepting it. There should be zero tolerance for abuse, zero tolerance for victimization and stupidity. Keep the fire burning.